In the process of understanding Postgres database server and pgadmin, in the previous lecture we have gone through the details about what Postgres database server is, what pgadmin is, how we can actually connect pgadmin as IDE to Postgres database and run queries against it. We haven't gone into the details about running queries. We'll be running very soon. Before going further, let us also understand some of the key aspects which you have seen earlier. The important aspect which you need to understand is localhost under hostname or server. Let's get into those details. When it comes to any machine, whether it is your Windows PC or my Mac or Linux desktop, it doesn't matter. It will have something called as IP address. Using IP address, we tend to talk to the servers. IP addresses are typically in this format: 192.168.122.123. If you observe, it have four numbers where they are separated using dots. IP addresses will be like this. Okay, the IP addresses might change over a period of time for our systems. To avoid getting impacted whenever the IP addresses are changed, we have something called as DNS alias, or in short alias. For these IP addresses, you can have alias, let's say itversity.com. This can be the alias for this if you have permissions to do so. Now, even if I want to change this IP address at a later point in time, behind this, I'll be able to change. My users who only know itversity.com will not get impacted. So there is the IP address and a DNS alias to talk to any system. Okay. When it comes to IP addresses, there is a special IP address. It is nothing but 127.0.0.1. This IP address typically have a special alias. What is that alias? It is nothing but localhost. Even if you don't understand completely, it is very important for you to be familiar about these, the 127.0.0.1 and localhost. As I have mentioned to you earlier, every server will have IP address. That IP address is typically used to communicate from the external systems. For example, let's say this is my server where I have some application. Let's say ITversity Labs is the application which is running on this server. Now, I might have a database external to this. There is a database that is running which is supporting this application. I should be familiar about the IP address or DNS alias or both. The most important one is DNS alias. So there will be IP address like this associated with this one. There will be DNS alias also. Using that DNS alias, I will be able to talk to this. Now, sometimes for the development purpose, I might have another server or my PC where it is named as ITversity Labs Dev. I don't want to set up external database server by having another system. If I wanted to have external database server, then first I need to get another system or computer. In that, I have to set up database server. It will become costly for me. To avoid that, for my development and possibly for testing, I might use same system to deploy my application and also to run the database. So in this itself, I might end up having the database server. Okay, so this is my dev DB. Even though both the application, which is nothing but this one, and database, let me also add one more here. So in this case, this is my Mac or PC. In my Mac or PC, I have application running. Also, I have database running. Now, if this application have to talk to this database, there has to be some details that are supposed to be provided to talk. As both of them are running on same machine, I should be able to use this local IP, which is associated with each and every system on the earth. Every system have this local IP. Using this local IP 127.0.0.1, you will be able to talk to your system only. From this system, you will be able to talk to this system only. You will not be able to talk to external systems using this special IP. So this special IP is primarily to make sure your applications that are deployed in our system can talk to each other without any gaps. Instead of IP, if you wanted to use DNS alias, the special DNS alias for this special IP is nothing but localhost. In this case, pgadmin as well as Postgres database server are running on the same machine. We have set up both on the same machine. That is why when you actually go to the connection details here, when it comes to hostname or address, we have localhost. Then comes port number. Every application that runs on a system permanently or perpetually or continuously will have a port number associated with it. Postgres database server is such a technology or tool which will be up and running all the time. If you wanted to connect to that, we also need to have a port associated with it. The default port number for Postgres database server is nothing but 5432. That is what you are seeing here. So localhost is because we have our Postgres database server running on the same machine where this pgadmin is running. Port number is 5432 because that Postgres database server is running on default port 5432. Then we have username, database, and also password. You should be familiar about password. When you set up the environment, you should have entered the password. You need to make sure you use that password when you set up the connection for Postgres user to connect to Postgres database. Very soon you'll be setting up a database in this Postgres database server. Also an user. Also you'll be granting permissions on this database to this user. In case if you wanted to connect to this database using this user which you are going to create, then you can actually go to pgadmin, right click on servers, click on register, click on server. You have to give the name. You can give the name of your choice. Then as part of the connection, you have to enter localhost because when it comes to Postgres database server, it is running on the same machine as pgadmin. Hence, we have to give localhost. Port number is 5432 because it is default. Then comes the database username and password. You have to enter the details based on what you have used while creating the database and user. Then you can toggle this, which means you can enable save password. Once you toggle and enable save password, you can click on save. It will take care of saving the connection for you, or it will take care of registering the server for you. You will be seeing additional server or connection as part of this sidebar. This is a quick overview about other important information associated with the Postgres database server, which you should be familiar about before you move forward. You really need to understand the purpose of 127.0.0.1 and localhost. Keep in mind that this is IP address. This is DNS alias or alias in short.